Okay, so you're a Canadian who's selling property in the US. That's awesome, but there's often a really nasty surprise waiting for you at the closing table. So today, we're going to break down exactly what that is, and way more importantly, how you can get around it and keep your cash right where it belongs. So imagine this. You did it. The deal is done. You've sold that sunny getaway. You're probably already thinking about what you're going to do with all that cash, right? Well, hold on. Before you start making plans, there's a number, a really big number, that you absolutely have to know about. 15%. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. That's a huge chunk of your money, and by default, it's set to be built right off the top of your sale price. And here's the real kicker. That's 15% of the entire sale price, not just your profit. This little bit of fun is thanks to a rule called FIRPTA, and its main job to lock up tens or even hundreds of thousands of your dollars. And that, my friends, is the big FIRPTA. The prize. For most sellers, it's a total shock. But here's the good news. Just understanding what it is, well, that's the first step to beating it. So, what is this for a thing? Really, the most important word on this slide, the one you've got to remember, is prepayment. This is not the final tax you owe. Think of it more like the IRS taking a really hefty down payment on any tax you might owe before your money heads back to Canada. And trust me, that distinction means everything. I love this way of putting it. It's not a final verdict on your tax bill. It's more like a giant refundable security deposit. But here's the thing. Your goal isn't just to get that deposit back faster. The real goal is to avoid putting down such a ridiculously huge deposit in the first place. Okay, so let's actually put some real numbers to this, so you can see why this is such a massive deal for your cash flow. Now, check this out. This is where it gets kind of wild. On a pretty standard $600,000 sale, the default withholding is a staggering $90,000, but your actual tax, the tax on your profit might only be something like $12,000. That huge gap in the middle, that's your money basically being held hostage by the IRS. And that's the problem we are here to solve. Okay, so now that you get the problem, let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. You've got two main ways you can go to slash that withholding and keep your money where it belongs, in your pocket. Alright, option 1. Now, this one's a bit of a maybe because it really depends 100% on your buyer. If they're a person who's actually planning to live in the property, you might be in luck. It's a very specific loophole that can cut the withholding rate, but it's got some very clear rules. So, just look at these numbers. If your sale is for $300,000 or less, the withholding can drop all the way to zero. Pretty sweet, right? Between that and $1 million, it falls to 10%. But, and this is a big but, the buyer has to sign a formal piece of paper saying they intend to use it as their home. If your buyer is a company where they just plain refuse to sign, then this option is completely off the table. So, what happens if your buyer won't sign or the price is over $1 million? Well, that brings us to your second and honestly your most powerful tool. It's a special form, an application you file directly with the IRS to get them to adjust the withholding amount down to your actual estimated tax. This analogy is just perfect. That default 15% rule. It's a sledgehammer. It's blunt. It's heavy. It's not precise at all. But Form 8028B, that's a scale. It lets you present your real numbers, what you paid, what you spent on improvements, all your costs to calculate the real tax with precision, so only that smaller correct amount gets withheld. Okay, the theory is great and all, but how do you actually do this? Don't worry, we've got you. Here is the step-by-step action plan you need to follow. Here it is, your 4-step playbook. First, and this is so important, you need to email your closing agent immediately and tell them to hold the FIRPTA funds in escrow. Then, you get your U.S. taxpayer ID number sorted. You gather up all your paperwork and you file that Form 8288B. The key to all of this is to start the second you have a signed contract. Do not wait. And I love this phrase, proof, not drama, because that's exactly what the IRS is looking for. This is the stack of documents that makes your case. Your tax ID, the contract, the closing statements from when you bought and sold the place, and this is a big one, invoices for any major improvements you made. Then you just tie it all together with a simple one-page memo that shows the math. A clean, organized package is what gets you a fast yes. So, you might be wondering, okay, is all this paperwork, is it really worth the hassle? You have no idea. Let's look at the real-world impact here. We're not talking about saving a few bucks. We're talking about fundamentally changing your entire cash position at closing. Take a look at this real case study from a sale in Fort Lauderdale. On a $520,000 sale, The default FIRPTA hit was a massive $78,000. But after filing Form 8288B, the amount that actually needed to be held back was only about $7,000. That's a $71,000 difference that stayed in the seller's pocket at closing, instead of going into an IRS lockbox for the next year. Now, let's just talk return on investment here, because the math is, well, it's pretty darn simple. Yeah, you'll have some professional fees, usually around $2,500, but when you're unlocking $75,000 or more in immediate cash and skipping a painful 6 to 9 month wait for a refund, it's a no-brainer. It is one of the best investments you can possibly make in your own sale. And you know what? We're going to make this even easier for you. This right here is the exact wording to use. This is your first and most important move. So, just copy this, paste it into an email to your closing agent, and press send. That one little sentence slams the brakes on the whole automatic process and protects your money. So, this isn't a put it on the to-do list for later kind of thing. The clock really starts ticking the moment you sign that sale contract. So, what's the single most important thing to take away from all this? It's that taking action in the next 15 minutes by sending that one simple email can save you months of stress and unlock tens of thousands of dollars. The power is officially in your hands.